There's a reason you don't remember these guys. Your brain was protecting you. This isn't the Hall of Fame. This is the dollar store clearance rack of pro wrestling. These were the dudes who showed up to work looking like they'd lost a bet. Vince handed them a mop, a toilet plunger, or a radiation suit and said, "Go be famous, kid." Most of them disappeared faster than a check from Herb Abrams. One's a janitor, one sued Vince, one just vanished like your stepdad. This isn't nostalgia. This is witness protection for failed gimmicks. Let's find these human botches. Ricky Hunter wrestled under the name The Gladiator, which is funny because nothing about him looked Roman, unless you count the sandals. He looked like the guy who stocks vending machines at a bus terminal but decided to wear a mask so his kids wouldn't find out what he does on weekends. Hunter was what wrestling promoters called reliable, which is just a polite way of saying, we can beat him like a narc at a biker rally and he'll still show up tomorrow. He wasn't a jobber. He was a career accomplice to assault. If you suplexed Ricky Hunter, you were legally allowed to put undefeated on your resume. The dude had more identities than a scam artist on AOL. He was the Gladiator, the Super Gladiator, the Executioner, the Avenger, and somehow still couldn't get over. At one point, he was working under a mask in 2 territories at once, which sounds impressive until you realize it's because promoters knew nobody gave a damn who he was. He was like wrestling's version of a placeholder password. Just type Hunter123 and move on. After retiring, he just faded out, like a TV show that stops mid-season and no one notices. No podcasts, no shoots, no bitter Twitter feuds with Disco Inferno. He vanished with the same energy he had in the ring. Quiet, forgettable, and vaguely disappointing. Where is Ricky Hunter now? But let's rewind first, because this man wasn't a wrestler, he was a human screensaver in trunks. Every time his music hit, if he even got music, the crowd hit the bathroom like it was halftime. He had more gimmicks than a bootleg lucha show and somehow still drew less heat than an unplugged tanning bed. He wasn't enhancement talent. He was the default setting for losing. Watching him was like playing wrestling on mute. You could tape over one of his matches with a cooking show and never notice. Now for the truth. Ricky Hunter passed away on February 8th, 2022 at the age of 85 in Clearwater, Florida. He had a lengthy, respected career that spanned decades, starting in the 1950s and stretching into the WWF's 80s boom. After retiring, he worked backstage as a road agent for WWF, helping younger talent and earning a quiet respect behind the curtain. T.L. Hopper was a wrestling plumber. That's it. That was the pitch. Vince looked at a grown-ass man and said, "You're going to fix toilets, and the crowd is going to love it." You know how insulting that is? That's not even a gimmick. That's just blue-collar cosplay with hepatitis. The man wrestled in suspenders, carried a plunger named Betsy, and came to the ring looking like he was late for a union grievance meeting. Portrayed by Tony Anthony, a legit Southern brawler with a resume full of bloody feuds, Hopper was basically punished for having talent. Vince looked at one of Smoky Mountain's nastiest hardcore badasses and said, "Great, let's make you the guy who smells like a truck stop urinal." Every time T.L. Hopper came out, you could hear America changing the channel. He didn't just kill crowd heat, he poured bleach down its throat and flushed it twice. His finishing move? A plunger to the face. He literally face-fucked jobbers on national television with a rubber suction cup and still couldn't get over. You could smell the gimmick through the screen. So where is T.L. Hopper now? Tony Anthony is still alive as of the latest public info, though largely removed from the wrestling world. He's worked small indie shows on and off since the 2000s, mostly as the dirty white boy, the same tough persona he had before Vince flushed his career into the Attitude Era's septic system. No podcasts, no shoot interviews, no carny bitterness, just a guy who survived Vince McMahon's worst idea this side of the gobbledygooker and lived to tell the tale. Word is, he's enjoying retirement quietly, probably far away from plungers, porta potties, and anything that smells like 1996 WWF. Private Terry Daniels wasn't just a gimmick, he was a punchline in camo. The man was parachuted into WWF in the mid-80s as Sergeant Slaughter's real-life Marine protege, which is hilarious because his push died faster than a boot camp dropout with asthma. This wasn't G.I. Joe, this was G.I. Nope! They tried to sell him as legit military, but he had the charisma of a duffel bag filled with regret. He didn't even walk like a Marine. He marched to the ring like he was trying to remember the Pledge of Allegiance under Xanax. Daniels was supposed to be the future of the Slaughter brand. Instead, he became a real-life cautionary tale about why you never introduce your tag partner as the next big thing, before he's wrestled more than 3 matches without crying. Let's be honest, he was cannon fodder in camo. They gave him a full military ceremony on WWF TV, a flag presentation, national anthem, the whole thing, and within months, he was getting powerbombed into irrelevance by guys in face paint. That's like getting a Medal of Honor and then getting dunked in a urinal by Demolition. But here's the real answer. Terry Daniels is still alive and well, and by all accounts, doing just fine outside the ring. He continued to wrestle through the 90s on the indie circuit and made appearances in WCW and ECW before finally stepping away quietly. He's kept a low profile, stayed out of the drama, and is reportedly living a normal civilian life, far away from the cartoon bullshit that defined his WWF run. No controversies, no lawsuits, just a guy who did the job, took the bumps, and saluted the fans, even if they were booing. Max Payne looked like someone who failed out of music school, joined a biker gang, and then got kicked out for being too greasy. He wasn't a wrestler, he was a walking midlife crisis in leather. WCW tried to pitch him as this tortured heavy metal badass, but he came off more like a Hot Topic manager who'd been sleeping in the break room for 3 nights. The dude wrestled in a trench coat and moaned his promos like his soul had syphilis. His gimmick was basically Kurt Cobain with CTE. He carried a guitar named Norma Jean, yes, really, and tried to act like he was brooding, mysterious, and dangerous, but instead of looking cool, he just looked like Bam Bam Bigelow's roadie who got left behind in catering. He teamed with Cactus Jack in one of the grimiest, most car wreck tag teams WCW ever produced, and that includes the Ding Dongs. Max Payne got fired from WCW in '94 after allegedly stiffing too many opponents, and having the kind of backstage attitude that made even Vader go, "Dude, chill." Then he sued Vince McMahon and the WWF for allegedly stealing his likeness to create Mankind. Yeah, that's right. He thought Mick Foley stole his soul. That's like a third-string garage band suing Metallica for inspiration. Here's the truth. Daryl Peterson, the man behind Max Payne, passed away on August 20th, 2023, at the age of 62. The cause of death wasn't publicly disclosed, but his family confirmed the news. In his later years, Peterson had distanced himself from the ring and released a raw, honest documentary titled The Real Max Payne, which chronicled the physical and emotional toll wrestling had taken on him. It wasn't pretty, but it was real. Just like him, sued the industry he believed wronged him, and left behind a cult legacy of unfiltered truth and scars that never quite healed. Atom Bomb was supposed to be radioactive. Instead, he wrestled like a glow stick in a headlock. Vince took Brian Clark and thought, what if we gave him neon goggles, laser-colored contacts, and told people he survived 3 Mile Island? Oh, that's not a gimmick. That's a lawsuit from OSHA waiting to happen. He came out in nuclear warning signs and wore black and red with yellow striped tights that looked like a biohazard suit, had sex with a bowling alley carpet. His finisher was called the Atom Smasher, which is ironic because his push was the only thing that got annihilated. Atom Bomb wasn't over. He was leaking gimmick fluid. Vince tried everything. He gave him a manager, Harvey Whippleman, human heat repellent, a babyface run, a heel run, $1 million body, and the guy still sold less merch than a Draws t-shirt. Every promo sounded like he was learning English phonetically. He had all the charisma of a toaster during a power outage. After WWF flushed him like nuclear waste, he turned up in WCW as Wrath, which is exactly what fans felt watching him wrestle. He joined the Blood Runs Cold Mortal Kombat knockoff crew and somehow still got overshadowed by Glacier, a man who wrestled in a snow machine. But here's the truth. Brian Clark, the man behind Atom Bomb, is alive and doing well as of the latest reports. He's spent the last few years involved in wrestling conventions and appeared in court a few times for a dismissed prescription fraud case in 2020, which he was fully cleared of. By today, he's clean, healthy, and active on social media, often reflecting positively on his career. He's also worked with veterans charities and seems genuinely grateful for the fans who remember him, even if they remember him as that neon guy who looked like he glowed in the dark but wrestled like a dim bulb. They booked him like a nuclear threat and got the in-ring intensity of a mildly annoyed DMV clerk. Watching Atom Bomb wrestle was like watching Godzilla take a nap. You kept waiting for carnage, and instead, you got a chinlock. So what did we learn today? That the 90s weren't a golden era. They were a radioactive landfill where grown men in neon tights pretended to be mutants, janitors, and military mascots, while Vince laughed all the way to the bank. These weren't wrestlers. These were occupational hazards in spandex. If it wasn't plumbing, it was patriotism. If it wasn't biohazard gear, it was biker grunge with brain damage. The only thing these gimmicks had in common was that every one of them was DOA the second they walked through the curtain. One guy got introduced with a flag ceremony and was forgotten before the anthem finished. Another came out with a plunger and looked like a health code violation in boots. One poor bastard thought a leather trench coat and a guitar made him brooding, but he looked like he got kicked out of a Kiss tribute band for being tone deaf and unstable. And that nuclear guy? He had everything but talent, like a glow stick that snapped before the party even started. This wasn't wrestling. This was Vince handing out bad ideas like candy and daring people not to choke on them. Smash subscribe like a folding chair to the spine. Like this video, if you ever watched Superstars and thought, what the hell am I even looking at? You're not alone. Thanks for watching.